Well,
No, I'm
Merry
recording.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
So the over the well, okay, I got Claude installed here. The two things that I worked on was I might have worked on
In the
this.
top one, it was the pie.
Yeah, but there's also this. I think I mentioned this to you before. I thought I sort of vibe coded this, not even with beads. I think with Gemini and Conductor.
Oh, nice.
And
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I saw you tried out Conductor. I'm very
I
excited to hear what
I
you
don't
felt
know.
like.
I thought it did a really good job. Like all this stuff here. Um,
Have you gone through the whole spec kit as well, just as an example? Or have
no,
you only
I
tried
think I've
Conductor?
tried it, but like I felt
It's
I
too
felt the
much.
conductor experience was a little bit
Better.
more streamlined. Yeah.
That's
To be
nice.
honest, I
Yeah.
don't know exactly what these archives. I think tracks are. I think you mentioned it before.
It's like the specs basically,
Yeah. So I
the
think
feature.
that if you looked in here, you can do some archaeology, and you can work out what I did. But I thought it was quite a smooth process.
Mm.
Of course, I mean, it is what this thing is just a very simple uh, Chrome extension. It did seem like, but I guess this is maybe normal. It did seem like we are generating 50 files to do like one tiny little piece of JavaScript. But I guess that's just normal. The, I mean, what, and God knows how many tokens. Like it's basically 100 lines of code for basically a lot of bureaucracy in some ways.
Mm.
Gemini
Well, yeah,
clipboard.
these systems like
Oh,
Conductor
it's
are not.
saving my screenshots. Ah, that's really cool. Because I was going like, this is not working.
Oh, it has a. Oh, wow! It stores. Okay, so Cloud Code does the same thing, but it stores your images in your home directory.
Hmm. So I don't know if it ever. Yeah, you see. So the end result here says age 4 months ago. But the problem is that Amazon is like sometimes having this information, sometimes isn't. But I did figure out there's a surefire way of figuring out the age, and that's to load that AI Rufus,
Mhm.
and then you ask the AI Rufus how old is the product, and it will tell you. So it's almost like the whole extension doesn't need to exist. You could
Because you see it right there at the top of the
you could
banner.
just talk to Rufus, but unfortunately that's not programmatic.
Oh, so wait, Rufus is an Amazon thing that's always
Yeah, it's like
there?
an AI thing.
Ah,
And
okay.
then the other thing I wanted to show you was that so this was I think this is actually I told you the thought experiment would be instead of using Ansible to basically administer this thing, which it was before, it was some Ansible crap. And then I thought to myself, hey, I'm not going to use Ansible. I'm going to use Claude to set this thing up, and it did work. But the trouble is, again, is that it's quite a simple setup, and I almost think there's more markdown than there was. There's more markdown now than there was in Ansible YAML, and I'm just thinking to myself, and then of course, if I had to set this up from scratch, which I don't really have the goal that I don't really have the time to do it to set it up from scratch using this README. I don't think it will be able to do it. I mean, I'm not confident it will be able to do it, but if I used Ansible, then I know there would be some reproducibility there. I know there would be some tests there. So basically, I learned a lesson that things like Ansible are definitely not going away.
Mhm.
You need the Ansible to sort of uh, just to run reproducibly, and then you use AI. You can't use AI to administer and set up a machine because it's just not reproducible. I mean, it's obvious in retrospect, but I have to remind myself
So
these
what people
things.
say is like the LLMs are the new ClickOps. They're doing things and they are not reproducible. But I see you use Beats. For this particular task, did you need more than one session? Did it require a big context? that you needed to use
It
beats?
did, it did. But I got a
Okay.
bit sidelined with things. It's almost like being a human with the AI. Well, I
Okay.
got sidelined because there was a networking issue.
Uh, yeah, that
And it
can really
was,
mess up
and the
the
trouble the
AI.
trouble is that the networking issue wasn't really down to the Pi. It was down to my Ubiquiti setup, and my Ubiquiti setup is a bit complicated. So basically, it was fighting all its assumptions about how the network should work were not really working very well because I had a screw up in my Ubiquiti thing, and it was just crazy. So that's kind
Mm.
of dumb. But I wanted to show you that my home setup, I think you might be marginally impressed by this. Let me just stop sharing. I'm so good at this. Here we go.
Ah, yeah.
Okay,
I need to install Ghost on my Mac. I use it on my Arch, by the way, but I don't use it on my Mac.
okay. So this is where you might be impressed. Have you ever played with Machine CTL or System D Nspawn?
And Spawn. All right. Only through Rocket from CoreOS. So that's a very long time
Yeah.
ago.
I mean, I could get I could get it running a little bit quicker than I am doing now. But like for example, I have an IP range pointing to my Pi. So this is why the
Mm.
networking is a bit confusing.
So you make like a flat network. You give them allocate a range to the Pi so that
Yeah,
the
exactly. So
containers. All right.
basically, I can make this a little bit faster, but I'm just debootstrapping from absolute scratch, as you can see. But in the matter of a few seconds, I can basically boot up a VPS uh, a, on a static IP. Is that the right expression? On a standalone
Hmm.
IP. So basically, this VPS um, completely owns that IP. And
Okay.
I've got 64 of those IPs. Well, actually, I think 62 are usable, but whatever. You get
Hmm.
the point. So basically, one thing that I was doing with this Raspberry Pi over the weekend was essentially set up a way of spinning up VPSs just quickly. So I don't have to use DigitalOcean. I can just use my Pi to
Well,
to
how
set
much
up.
CPU and memory does a Pi have? That
Not
Pi.
not a lot, but it seems fast enough for what I do. I think it's like
Okay.
4 GB or something,
Okay.
something tiny.
But this VM is like it's like was it KVM or
It's
no, it's
using
ans
systemd nspawn,
right,
which
right,
is some
right.
sort of systemd
It's
thing.
still
So
containers, yeah.
yeah, so I don't know. There's nothing much running inside it except SSHD. The setup script, as you can see here, like I, I download the keys from GitHub, because I don't know if you know this trick, this GitHub
Yes. Yeah, I do this.
dot keys. I just
Yep.
I just set up SSH. I throw in my keys into the authorized keys,
Yep, yep.
set
We
up my
had the same
user,
at
disable
ONSB.
password authentication, and all that sort of stuff, and then I'm in there. Um, and then, of course, what the next thing I was going to do is that I was going to maybe run Docker in each one. That seems to work fine. So they're all isolated. So they're all isolated. I can run my little experiments in them. Um, I mean, I could even like create you a VPS if you wanted one in the UK. I could become a digital ocean, start charging people $5 a month.
Yes.
But I
There's
think the
yeah.
specs are pretty bad. Like I don't know how do I see the memory? Yeah, I got four
Yeah.
gigabytes. But it's
Nice.
it, it's fun though. It's fun. So I'm
But
I'm
this
also
IP range is on your local network. Now, when you want to allocate public IP addresses, or are you using something like Tailscale or some
no
WireGuard
these
type of
IPs are
networking?
public.
Also, how did you get an IP range?
I asked my ISP very nicely and they did it for me.
You paid them.
Well,
It isn't, it's not cheap. Definitely not IP
it's part of
v4.
my subscription. So for
Oh,
example,
really?
this IP I set up here. Which one was it? I think I what's my host name here?
You want me to open it again? HTTP 8000. Hello, Vincent. Yes, I see that. Do I see it on the curl? Curl. Yes, I see H1. Hello, Vincent in curl.
Yeah, so you get the point. Like now,
But on your,
I have a whole range of, I have a subnet of public IPs mapped to my Pi. So
you can run some game servers.
I can do whatever you can do with 4 gigabytes of RAM.
Now is where you start buying pies. And then, but this is the thing about that I saw some people play with is Slicer VM from Alexis Alice. I think he built like OpenFAS or functions as a service. So OpenFAS is using Docker under the hood to basically it bootstraps your container with an entry point, and then when HTTP request comes in, it calls your container and
Yeah,
sends the
but
message and
like
then
systemd has all
closes it.
these things. You can set up systemd to activate a service on socket or something like that,
Yeah, socket activation for your.
or some other little like knock knock. It can basically spin up a VPS. So
So what you're saying, it can be kind of like serverless, but not really because. Okay,
well,
so what?
I mean, systemd is its own set of features and tools, but it's very comprehensive, and you can do things like I showed you. You can spin up isolated VPSs for people.
It's very nice. Yeah, like you said, but the thing is, it's not really very strong isolation, I think, still, right? That's where people are
I'm
like,
not. I would have to research that. I mean, that's one of the things I find a big of a bit of a isn't it a taboo in our industry, but like isolation is one of those things that always comes up. Docker never really had a very strong security stance with their isolation, right?
yeah.
And a lot of machines basically assume workload isolation on a Docker host, and they're just
Mm.
guessing, right? Um, of course, Amazon, I think, have got a more complete story with Firecracker or something like that.
Yes, so that's the thing that Slicer VM
But still, I
uses.
think there's some people that are not 1,000% convinced, right?
Hmm. Cool. So what I did over the holidays, is I did my year in review blog post where I had a lot of fun
Oh,
with cloud code. Did you try it?
like
Oh, that one.
Claude's wrapped. Okay, yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
no, no, no. I did not Cloud Web. I did basically I have my landing page, which is pure JavaScript, JS and CSS and HTML, no React, nothing, because I wanted maximum like speed.
Oh, okay. You should share it.
No, that landing page I built a while ago. Oh, let me share the screen. Hold on. I don't know how much time you
Okay,
have.
I gotta run in like 2 minutes though.
I think it's this one. Oops, maybe. Oh, there's a lot of tabs. Let's do like that. Okay, so I'm going to. So this was my original landing page, right? And there was no blog.
Wait, I can't see anything. Am I blind?
What are you seeing?
Build reliable infrastructure with confidence.
Yeah, so that was the original landing page without the block. And this landing page, I literally asked like Codex and Gemini back in August. I want SEO optimization. I explained what are my keywords that I want the ranking because I realized that my wording was horrible. And this is what it came up with. And also, like, it does really cool stuff. Like, it uses Puppeteer to launch the browser, look at which CSS elements are above default, and it inlines critical CSS. So it puts only the CSS needed for rendering the top part of the page, and then the rest gets loaded or gets loaded later. So the top part renders super fast. And then I run all kinds of lighthouse reports, basically. Lots of fun.
Mm.
And then I build this thing, which is like the whole tour thing where it highlights different sections of the code to explain.
Ah,
Yeah, this I built back in September, right? But this is all pure JavaScript. So
okay. I
I
didn't.
run the synth, and then it was really cool to build because these things are segments. So I define a line range, and then it draws when it does the I asked Codex, when you do the highlight JS, I'm using highlight JS here. When it
Mm.
renders all of the color codes, the HTML elements like the divs and everything that creates these different colors for this code, it creates a map of line ranges, and then it basically creates a big diff while it's rendering everything. around these HTML elements. So
Mm-hmm.
when you click start and next, it basically this element is already rendered within. Actually, look, the line range is wrong here. And then it highlights that
Oh yeah.
particular div element when
Yeah,
with
I really,
JavaScript.
I do like that Tor idea. Okay,
Yeah.
I need to go to my stand-up. I'll have a
Okay.
look at your Terra constructor there, but that
The block
doesn't.
thing is all new. So with I wanted to keep this front page fast, and this whole block thing, this is all React. So this is much slower. But I actually have a voice. So I have like the whole listening of this whole. I don't know if you hear the audio. Do you hear the audio when I press
Oh my
play?
God, you went crazy, man. You went crazy.
You have like table of contents with like scroll
Okay, okay.
tracking.
I'll have a look. I'll have a look. I need to run.
I had a lot of fun building
Let's
this.
catch up when I'm in uh, and let's try.
It
Yeah,
took 10 days to
we
build
we
this.
got to catch up on Steve Yeager stuff too.
Yeah, yeah.
See you. You're working with Gemini. Is that
No,
why?
no. I'm working with Cloud. It has a skill. It knows how to use beats. Yet
But it
when I
still
ask
gets it
it,
wrong sometimes.
yes, it's still getting it wrong. Like there's
Hmm.
still this
There was a
context
comment
exhaustion, I guess.
on one of the previous uploads to the podcast to say as much actually that that sometimes it didn't work. Let's see if I can find the comment.
Yeah, they're so
So it does.
non-deterministic, right?
I don't know
I
how many
do
people are listening to us, but if someone comments, that's always a good sign, isn't it? Someone's actually listened to us.
at least some parts of it.
Yeah. Um, oh gosh, community.
Yeah, he did it right. Looks better. Okay, perfect.
So, did you ever have a chance to play with Gastown?
Not much. No, I'm still reading it. You know how I guess the real thing is you have to try it out, but um Steve says that many warnings, be careful, this is expensive. He runs three cloud, three Anthropic Pro subscriptions to run Gastown. Each one I assume around $200. So it's like $600 a month to run Gastown.
Hmm.
It's crazy. But back to the thing, right? With basically we have a cloud skill that's there. Um, we tell Beats, we give it information about how to create Beats issues, and yet it still sometimes thinks that when it needs to add a comment, instead of doing BD comments add, it runs BD comment add without the S. And then there's an alias. Beats have both. It has Beats comments add, or an alias for comments add is BD comment, but there's no BD comment add. And actually, it's funny because Steve says that this picture of when you look at the park in a city and the city planning decides that there should be roads here and here, but then actually when people walk to work and to school and everywhere, they like walk
Yeah,
across the park.
we call them cow
What's it called?
paths. Yeah, cow
Yeah, so
path.
basically it's a very interesting design, right? Where
Yeah, I've that's
and
the
he
that
says you should treat the LLM hallucinations as such. So if it hallucinates something, you should implement it. So next time
yeah.
it has all the options. It's crazy.
One thing I find remarkable about using AI is that it does like behave like a human. Like it trips up in the same way a
Absolutely.
human, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
crazy. It's just like so people who've designed some software, other humans must have tripped up at the same point. So I find it like an amazing way of now validating some a design because if AI can't figure it out, the humans are not going to figure it out, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought, so I'm doing this in a context where I already did a significant amount of like research and refactoring because I already explained some information about how to create and use beats, re-explained it and redirected it. I thought, you know what, I don't want to kill the session. I want to keep this one. And I still had like 45% context left. So I thought it's going to be fine, but maybe that's why it started to hallucinate these things. But it's exactly the same as me, right? I can't remember. Oh, is it BD comments ad or is it BD? Like I can't remember, right? I also have to go real quick, go and look at BD
Yeah.
help, you know?
I mean, right now we're at like a golden age where like the AI is probably as smart as a really smart human, and I don't know, a
Yeah,
few
it's a
months from
basic.
now, it's
Yeah, it's going to be super
we're
smart.
getting to the point where this mythical AGI, depending how you define it, but like I guess my feeling right now is that AI is going to be smarter than the smartest human, uh, pretty much now, especially when it gets
Very
more
soon.
context right.
It impacts the way that we work together so much, right? I had an off recording conversation with you about how does you asked me several times, like how do you see this scale across the team? How do you see how do you keep other team members that maybe do not run cloud code yet
Oh, yeah.
and engage them into these like processes so that they
Well, it's never
also
too
can.
late. It's never too late.
It's never too late, but I I I saw a comment on LinkedIn just a few hours ago, which was about using AI's agent to work on your issues, and somebody said, I remember it was purely about the documentation part, saying like, oh, a lot of people think that the code is the documentation, and basically you should read the code, and documentation is always outdated, but this is like really stupid. Imagine that you have to work on React and there's no proper docs, right? And then somebody who works at Facebook, Meta, said that, and I found that a lot of times the documentation was outdated and that the code actually is more accurate than the documentation, kind of this back and forth. And I feel that the whole idea of spec-driven development is that you completely inverse this, right? You inverse the now you lead with specification documents and you iterate on the UX, the user experience, through those
Mm,
documents with
yeah.
like mock-ups and all, and whatever you can,
More
get
product
into
owner
a
led.
text format, yeah, that can fit into LLM workflows. So the humans, with stakeholders in real life, work through these things, and maybe not just AI, like not just other human stakeholders, but definitely it's like you send an email. You said, hey, ChatGPT, expand this, and then the email goes out, and then somebody say, hey, ChatGPT, compress this, right? So you're interacting between humans and AIs are in between everywhere. Um, but you start with the specifications, and
Yeah, yeah.
basically the documentation is your living proof, and all of your
Mm.
integration tests are the validation of the documentation. And if
But
the integration test fails, they're one to one with the documentation. And he said, well, that's like a fantasy because validation is so hard at the moment, right? Um, but
well,
I think we'll get
wait a minute.
there.
I thought we started. I thought you were talking about specs in the sense that how do we get the teams to sort of adopt that sort of workflow? Because like I'm just speaking anecdotally from
Mhm.
working with the sort of enterprisey clients that I work with. The thing that makes my mind panic, or I don't know how to deal with, is that like these enterprises are so slow and AI is so fast that the cadence is completely mismatched. So like how do you have these meeting? How do you coordinate all the stakeholders in a typical enterprise to basically iterate at the speed of AI and spectrum development? I just don't even see it happening. But
Yeah,
maybe I'm just being pessimistic at this point.
I'm also trying to find because I read somewhere someone saying basically, you know, I am entrenched in what the same thing you said. I'm entrenched in these enterprise systems, Confluence and
Yeah,
Jira, and basically, I don't live isolated. Like my cloud needs to be aware of it. I need the bridge across my cloud
exactly. So
context.
one thing I worked on working hours yesterday, and I don't think people were impressed, or they didn't understand what I was trying to do, perhaps, even though I tried to explain it to them. I was just trying out this workflow. So I don't know if you know about this. Uh, there's a couple of workflows. This Telefonica one seemed to be the most featureful one. And I started at the
Telefonica?
feet. Huh?
Telefonica?
Yeah.
I don't know this.
Telefonica, it's the biggest mobile operator in Spain, I think.
Telefonica workflow?
well, anyway, Telefonica is the big enterprise that created the action, and what happens is
Oh,
that
an
you
action.
have your. I don't know if you're looking at my.
And now I can see it. MD Confluence.
Yeah, you have all your markdown, and
Right.
what it does is that it ships it up into a particular place in your Confluence, right? And then it adds this automation notice. This page is synced automatically. Changes made.
Yo, I was trying to do this like 5 years ago. I'm so sick of Confluence. Even the Markdown editing
Exactly.
experience in Confluence doesn't work.
So I was basically telling my colleagues that like, hey, I'm doing this so that we can start using Markdown more, which I think, I mean, it's going to be such an uphill battle because like, I mean, I'm exaggerating, but I'm not exaggerating in the sense that I think some of my colleagues don't even know what Markdown is. You know what I mean? It's like this is going to be a struggle.
That's pretty dire.
Well,
Then
actually, Markdown's very
how did you feel
accessible.
about YAML then? Still XML?
Well, it's going to take, yeah, like
Well, they're ready for us to
I
go
think
full
it'll,
circle.
huh?
They're in the opportune location for us to go full circle back to
Yeah,
XML.
yeah, but like, I mean, I'm probably exaggerating things. I think my colleagues will can start adopting these AI workflows, and we'll see very great results. It's just that
I found it.
I'm just trying to formulate a plan to sort of get them using Markdown, get them in. Just writing down things would be amazing.
Right. So,
Like,
but this is like
like
an extension of the code is the latest version. It's like I feel there's different tiers because you can start in Confluence, then you can start create a project or a repository out of it and start writing documents in that repository and have the code next to those documents. And then as you change things, you can assume that it trickles back up, from the code back to the in repo docs back to the Confluence page
yeah,
like somehow. Like I had this discussion at Infinitum at my previous company where I was like, I hated, we had like three, four different document management systems. We had Google Docs. Well, I probably introduced that one. We had Quip. I don't know if you know that one. We
no,
had Notion, and then we had in repo Markdown. And basically, you work with external people that don't have Notion using Google
yeah,
Docs. And then you have Quip, where you put like short, like it's like a shared document space. And then you had the original founders of the company. It started with Notion, and basically all of the HR tracking documents and everything was in Notion.
yeah.
And so
That's a
it
good way of
split
thinking
across
about
everything.
it because, but yeah. So in the past, it was I don't know Microsoft Word or something, and then it would probably trickle into into Confluence, for want of a better word. I mean, this is the typical content management of an enterprise. And then if you're lucky, if you're lucky, it would be yeah GitHub repos or something like this.
Yeah,
This is like the machine of the enterprise. And
yeah.
what needs to happen really to just to accommodate AI is that well, I mean this is my current thinking is that the GitHub repo is the source of truth, and then we go from there
Thumbs up.
to Confluence so that
Yeah.
other people can read the docs. But then, how does it get to Microsoft Word? Yeah, this is where things get a little bit weird, don't they?
You still, I mean, I thought you were talking about the 70s when you, no, sorry, about the 90s when you mentioned Microsoft Word. What are you talking about? Who is using Microsoft Word? I thought
Well,
everyone already at least moved
enterprises
towards
are like
Confluence.
there's people who don't code, and yeah, I mean, like,
I'm
how
sorry,
do
I
we
don't
get?
understand what you're saying.
But this is the problem I have. How do we get to this flow, essentially?
Yeah, so I make a joke about this, but this was exactly the problem I had with my previous company because I kept saying Markdown is the source of truth, and he was saying we have other people that don't code. I guess I just don't get that, and that don't, access. Markdown. He says like there's a design step before you go to the repo, something that is
Yeah.
across multiple repos. That's
Yeah,
what
and
Confluence is for,
so the
right?
design step is now with AI, essentially talking to the AI, and the artifact is Markdown or some or plain text, and that's what we're familiar with.
I think those people that are still using Microsoft Word are also those people that are still going into a ChatGPT session and then ask to and then manually copy paste out the code that it proposes, or
Yeah,
like or like do a bunch of deep research. I mean, I'm joke. I shouldn't be too high and
yeah. I
mighty
mean,
because I did that
the
like
people
in February.
in this Microsoft Word domain are using ChatGPT in their web browser for sure.
Exactly, right?
Yeah, like how to include people here in the AI iterative process. Yeah,
Iterative.
iterative. Yeah,
Okay.
this is my thought here.
So I should send you a link in the chat. Because for me, I think I think spec-driven design and you just turn this upside down, right? But I can imagine to introduce that to enterprises is very hard. But these guys, this post looks like my workflow, blah blah blah. But actually, he's one of the like it's a promotion for a platform called Core. So at the bottom you see, yes, I work for Core, which is like Red Planet HQ Core. But Core is seemed to be like a drop-in to integrate multiple platforms. He says I have to work on tasks that are spread across GitHub issues, inside Linear, which is I guess the modern Jira, inside Slack threads, and I even get emails. So I want to coordinate my tasks and collate my work items, determine my priorities. And
Between all
then,
these different. The trouble
which
I
to me
have,
is like kill the other platforms,
yeah,
but
I
maybe not
don't.
realistic from my
All these,
side.
I mean, this Confluence integration, in my opinion, holds very little value really because it becomes read only, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It
I mean, but to be honest, a pull request flow to make adjustments to a document is not the same as like a Google Docs shared session and collaboratively editing and proposing changes. Like if you use Google Docs or Quip, you can highlight a section, add a comment, or you can go into proposal mode and just delete a paragraph, rephrase it, and then the author or the document owner, even
yeah
if it's yourself, but you want to keep track of the changes that you're proposing, can then accept or can discuss, which try and do that on a pull request. Try and do that with
I
like,
mean, this GitHub repos, yeah, that conjures up nightmares of pull requests, which is
so something
so
like
so yeah
Confluence, I think
yeah.
has a purpose. Something like a collaborative doc platform. Confluence is horrible. I think I'm not
Okay, so
talking about
like
Microsoft Words, like the Google Docs,
I like
maybe
what you said.
Word.
So you can comment, edit, and then that feeds into. But how do we get from Confluence into
I don't
Claude
call it
Code?
Confluence, call it documentation platform. I'm just allergic to Atlassian.
Uh,
Okay, just never mind.
okay, doc platform. So how do we get? Yeah, I don't understand how we get from there into there. So it would basically be listening to any doc changes, and then Claude Code would do a plan, like because yeah, like how does this gonna work, Vincent? How is this gonna work?
I built something, but I don't want to talk about it.
Okay, well,
I built something that is doc platform that allows you to comment on line ranges, and it creates added batches. As and basically, it is up to a human to to step through an added batch, which is basically
but
we
okay,
iterate through the comments. You select which comments you want to address and
yeah,
which
but
ones you want to skip,
actually,
and
let's
that
wind it
results
back a bit.
in an LLM prompt.
I'm going to
Sure.
attack the idea of stakeholders actually commenting and editing because, in my experience, many stakeholders in big enterprises they're never going to edit or comment on a doc platform. This is like middle management zone, if that.
I don't know if this is placed advertisement, but I think this is would be interesting to attend the Pact Publishing workshop on spec-driven development with Kiro, where they talk about writing specifications and collaborating on, and basically it's from an AWS principal engineer, and he talks about how AWS manages these documents. You understand?
Ah,
I think that's why I would go to that workshop because it's not just about spec-driven development, but also the aspect of how does AWS approach this document approach and how does it flow into a specification that then is worked on in Kiro.
yeah,
That is the step that is basically this, right? How do I get from a doc to Cloud Code slash Kiro to whatever is my agent shell
yeah, yeah. That'd be
to
interesting.
work?
Though the, I mean, I think Amazon is probably there's definitely some people who are doing cool things in Amazon, but it doesn't seem to show. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, no, but like I also um Amazon uses a doc platform before it goes into Kiro, right? And maybe these are, you know, processes that have been so long in place that, you know, you can't just overnight replace because of AI is now in the mix. And so
mm,
most of the effort is like, how do I get AI in the loop on all of these other processes? You know, we're always thinking about letting AI do the work and keeping the human in the loop. But in a lot of these scenarios, and I read this from a LinkedIn post, you need to look at it from how to get AI in the loop, right? What's your question is Cloud Code,
yeah.
there is AI. How
I
do I get AI in the loop?
I like this loop. I think is important because even if we make integrations here, the stakeholders really need to be here to see what's AI is spitting back at them. Otherwise, they're going to be out of the loop, right?
Mm,
Like
Uh,
how do we create a loop here? There needs to be a loop, as you said. You know what I'm saying? Like we might form this Kiro or whatever. We might be able to connect the dots, but if the loop isn't if this isn't
if it
going
doesn't
if
circle
this loop
back.
isn't like super fast, then the whole thing breaks down. This is why Claude Code in a terminal is such a fantastic experience because you're there in with the code and you're looping so quickly with each press of the key.
But doesn't that go offline? Like, I think it has a benefit to have Claude in at the meeting table, saying like, oh, by the way, guys, think about these different ways that you could address this. But doesn't it go from we have a discussion either on a document, either in a call or in a meeting room, and we based on that discussion, we have highlighted sections that need to rework, and then somebody takes that offline, basically with Cloud Code and iterates through some of these proposals and makes decisions, then those decisions result in changes to the document, and a new version of the document is published.
Mm.
Um,
And
and
then
that new
stakeholders review
version,
it.
yes, and you say that's too slow because you get a very fast feedback loop with Cloud Code, but I feel it is not productive to have everyone at the table for those individual
Okay,
iterations.
so basically,
And now
let me
I'm
see if
really
I
talking about what I've built.
so
Because I
essentially,
spent 1 week, like 5 days on this idea.
so the so basically it goes back into the document. Um,
I think you can just the arrow above can go back into the document. Anyway, no,
yeah,
yeah, never mind.
and then it goes. Yeah, I still think this is going to be too slow.
Yeah,
Or just, I mean, there's surely some scientific.
too slow compared to what? To reality, to today?
Well, like
Because today it's way slower.
there's a law of the more people you add to a project, the more communication overhead you have, and I feel like even though I put one person here, in reality, there's a whole team. There could be like 10 people here that we have to like reach alignment with. And the stakeholders, there could be another, 3 or 4 stakeholders or whatever. It could be this, yeah, just reaching
No, it's
alignment is going to be so challenging here.
there was a human caterpillar. Oh, what the human? Uh, for a while. Never mind. Okay,
This is going to be nuts. This is going to be nuts.
yeah. So, I'm actually been like opening threads like crazy to see how people, and I think one of the interesting organizations working on this is Human Layers. They did a presentation where they heavily referenced Steve Yeage's Beats project as well, and talking about, you know, at what stage you have brain rot. How they call it? So because of the I think they say at the 30%, 40% mark, if you only have 40% left of unused context, that's where you are in the non-productive zone of your context window. And so
What?
he highlights, it's called the talk is called harness engineering, and we can link it later, but he talks about how to control that context and common mistakes. And um, this relates to this, I'm sure, because it talks about how you get the context, um, and how you optimize your workflow, basically. Human Layers does a lot of effort there. At the end of his talk, it talks about, if you like what I've talked about, go check out Human Layers, in terms of like how do we, interact and integrate this LLM driven
Human layers
workflow.
is some software then. Like, sorry, I'm
It's a
looking at these
Silicon
humans
Valley
and
startup.
well, I really like that thing that we were talking about over WhatsApp. I mean, everyone's going crazy about that sort of keep on. It's got such an immemorable name. That tool that which basically prompts you. What is the name of it again?
Ask User Tool.
Yeah, ask user tool. How about this? I'm just riffing here. But say you're working with AI, the ask user tool sends a message to each of the sort of stakeholders, the middle managers or something like that, and ask them to agree on this certain thing. And then all
Oh,
they need to press is like enter. And then they move on to the next thing, and then enter, move on to the next thing. And if they don't, so basically
it's
it's like
like
some sort of democracy because, uh, stakeholder A and B might answer something, option one, but stakeholder C might say option two or something. So
okay.
we need some sort of like democracy type, or or getting to some ubiquitous. What do you call it when unanimous decision about a certain
Majority.
thing?
Not unanimous. I think it's majority.
Well, yeah, that's democracy, but in reality, you want unanimous, but you want
Oh,
everyone
oh,
to agree.
you're right.
And
You're right. You're right.
I did. I
Um,
mean,
but what I
but
think,
this is the thing that's missing because like we jump in and chat with Claude and it's like some sort of like mind meld
okay, so what exists
social
already
paradise, but in
today?
reality, there's loads of stakeholders.
Okay, so what exists today is you have tools like Warp Terminal that do not have a single. Okay, what you're talking about seems to be like, there's this tool that you can share your shell, and then you can have other people on the same shell. You
Oh
know
my
this
God.
one?
Yeah. Like you can do that with Tmux.
Yeah, you can do it. I think it's basically a wraparound Emacs that allows people to connect and have multiple cursors and even collaboratively edit in a shell. Um, so and there's a lot of really cool stuff using Tmux around around agents also. But anyway, today Warp Terminal has the concept of an individual session that you have with Cloud Code that you can then, after you submit the code, share that session, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you get the link of that session. So you have the full context of how that code ended up to be what it was. But and then another thing is open code also has this feature. So open code, they have a server side that you can, I think it's private, you can, as an enterprise, subscribe. But open code by default, open code is basically a cloud open source cloud code version, and
Yeah, I tried it the other day.
I love it. I've been playing on it a lot now.
But
You don't like it?
does it have an Ask User tool?
So I linked to you the proposal. There's like two or three people do the PR to add it in, but they're adding it into the core. So the reason why I bring up open code and Warp Terminal and sharing sessions is because what you're proposing is like an Ask group tool, which is like sending, maybe with some type of tmux shell sharing, like asking everyone in the group to
Well, I
respond
mean,
to
I'm
the
not sure
options.
tmux sharing is going to work because the way tmux works is you share the same window, right?
Right.
You
And so everyone would need to answer the same questions. But what I want to say is open code has like three or four PRs open to add the Ask User tool into open code because it's like one of the highly requested features. But instead of editing it to the core, because apparently open code also has like a web app environment, like the terminal user interface is just one of the interfaces that you can use with open code. So they don't want the Ask User tool to be tightly coupled to the core and tied to this terminal user interface interaction, because then it doesn't really work well across all the other interfaces that they expose, which to me thinks there could be a collaborative document type of interface on top of open code as well, right? But to solve the problem, they're adding a new kind of user interaction model into the core of open code. That means anyone can then implement Ask User Tool as a plugin. So the
mm,
core supports your
okay.
plugin to define like rich modal interactions, like open a tabbed interface, provide options, and with
Mm.
up and down. So I think that's amazing, and
So
that's only
so
because it's open source. Yeah.
yeah, so we can build something like this, right? But let's go into the nitty gritty details. Do you think it should be unanimous? Do you think this say these three stakeholders in a project? Do you think they can come to unanimous decision, or there should
Sounds
it be
like planning
democracy?
poker. Everyone
Planning
raised their hand
poker.
at the same time, and if you don't agree, then the person that don't agree with the majority has to explain why, and then you have to all raise your hands again on
Yeah,
the
that
on the
sounds like a
t-shirt
really good
signs.
agile exercise, isn't it?
I have no idea what agile is. Uh,
Planning
anyway,
poker. I've never heard of it.
yes. You don't
What,
know planning poker?
where does it come?
You need to use Fibonacci numbers. That's all I
Or
remember, or t-shirt
scrum
sizes.
poker?
Yeah, so the idea is that you discuss about a feature and then you have to estimate the size, story points basically.
Oh yeah, but
Because
that's not. I
that
mean, estimating that's the trouble with AI. It's like, does it make sense to estimate a story anymore?
no,
Not
we're not
really.
talking about that. We're talking about the process of planning poker, right? So the process of planning poker is you're in a group, there's a feature, and people need to agree, need to align. And
Need
your
to align.
problem is,
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so it's an alignment tool.
yeah, poker in the process of planning poker, there's an alignment process, there's an aligning concept because
Mm,
everybody, the way is like you raise up your hands. You're not supposed to like look at each other. You have to make a decision and
yeah,
then
like three.
yeah, some people use t-shirt sizes, some people use numbers, but if you use numbers, it's like Fibonacci sequence to make sure that it's not too like if you have a gradual number range, people always go for the middle. But if you have Fibonacci numbers, it's more like I read a lot about this a long time ago. I don't remember
Yeah,
too
yeah.
much about it
I've
anymore.
played this game. I've played this game.
Yeah, but I mean, if coming back to your original question about finding a unanimous or
Yeah, I think it's
just
a good. I think
majority,
I think it's a good suggestion. I really do actually.
yeah. And
So
then
like
another
there's
discussion.
lots of tool. I think there's like Jira plugins to do what you just described. So we need an Ask User tool planning
An
poker,
Ask Group tool, an
and,
Ask
and we
Group
and we
tool
need
plugin.
and I need it planning poker. I need it implemented by Monday. So see you then, Vincent.
So first off, the open code PRs, you could look at open code and take these PRs and but then it goes into core. So the reality is that open code says this is a highly requested feature, and we're going to build these nice UI, functionality directly into the core, so that plugins can build really interactive, models. then imagine that plugins, but still, I think the plugin system with open code will be on a single user interface. It won't be something that goes over across a server with WebSockets that then updates everyone's screen. Like, hey, here's the next question. Here are five options.
Well,
Which one do you
you
pick?
build it like beads, and then you can have your crazy UI on top of it, right?
Yeah. So for me, the way I solved it in the thing that I've been building, it's more of an offline flow. It's like one of the persons goes and evaluates all the options, and then the system
Yeah.
keeps track of what they received.
Actually,
So
that brings me, sorry, to slight tangent. Beads, surely beads could maybe incorporate some sort of option to refine the story or something like that. Or, but to be honest, beads is more of the actual task markup than getting
yeah,
to the. Yeah, you're right. Okay.
and I think it's good to isolate this because that's where I love Beats because if it's perfectly in my process or any process that I choose to use, for me right now individually going through the research plan implement phases, which I do with SpecKit, but there's OpenSpec, there's Spec CLI, there's like 100 different implementations of spec-driven development under the sun. So Beats is perfect because it doesn't concern itself with however you get to those tasks, right?
Okay. So let's just hypothetically imagine that this is working. Stakeholders are agreeing. Beads are created. Beads are executed on, and then something is built, right? Then what happens? Then is there some sort of acceptance testing? Is there like how do we get the stakeholder? Because like this is another sort of communication issue whereby like you and I we would plan something, then we would
Mhm.
create the beads, and then we would BD ready, get the agent to implement it, but and then we would have to like review the code and check everything is looking great, and
No,
then
that's
and then test the product, and then deliver the product, and then
no, 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 no.
again.
I think there you're first off you're forgetting some of the agile principles, right? Which is build a minimal first to get user feedback quickly. We all know that whatever the user agrees to is not really what they want until they see it.
Oh, okay. So then we're going back to an MVP.
Yes, and this is one of the takeaways that like people say when they work with AI is that you don't create mockups or you don't come with a design specification. With AI, you come with an MVP. You actually implement it and you let people play with it because it goes so fast. So we need when we do these planning poker, we're talking about like small sprint type of things, and we need
Mm.
the acceptance criteria. Aside from all agreeing that this is what we want to build, we need to get an MVP. And this is the great thing about SpecKit, by the way. When I do a feature definition, it's always going to identify the MVP of like what is the smallest type of feature that I need to that I can show to someone for the initial like UX feel of it. And I think that's great in these tools. Like when
So
you work with
so
AI.
like let's role play here. So let's just say like, oh, here's this MVP. Check it out on localhost 8,000. So they check it out, and then what happens? Then there's new requirements. Like actually, this should say food instead of bar, and then it at this point it engages Claude again because like especially I'm just thinking aloud for like UI based web based things. Like Claude probably doesn't even know what the render looks like or something like that, or like I'm just thinking there's going to be new challenges here to engage with the arc. I mean, this is a planning tool, but we need another tool to facilitate the iterations once the MVP is built, or wouldn't you? Or maybe I'm just complicating
No,
it for
I
no
think
good
that's where
reason.
we need to just fall back to existing processes because your cloud session of this planning session is gone, right? That's an ephemeral, short-lived session. You have some output artifacts that you either, that you fed into because I think there's still a
So,
very
I think I know what you're saying. You just start again. You throw away the MVP, and then you start from scratch or something. Is that what you're
it
saying?
depends. Um, it depends how what you want to do with the MVP. If you're an enterprise and you can spend $1,000 on cloud tokens, I think you can throw away and or generate five different MVPs. Me personally, if I spend a weekly budget of $20 a month on my MVP, I don't really want to throw it away.
Okay, let's imagine now that we started from scratch. We used a whole bunch of tokens, and now we have something that the three stakeholders are happy with. Isn't there going to be a question of maintainability, like, or
So this is where I feel the idea of maintainability of software is going to change significantly because, and I think Steve also says this very nicely when he talks about Beats. He says, I created it in October, so what, 3 months, and it has thousands of users right now. I have never looked at the code. I've not looked at
I,
the code.
well,
And if
I
you look
think
at
he's lying,
Gastown,
but I think he's exaggerating.
And if you look at Gastown, he says he gives like a bunch of caveats. It's going to cost you a lot of money. It's going to cost you an arm and a leg. It's going to be insane. If you're not at stage 7 of AI adoption, he makes a diagram of like, people that use AI in
Oh,
ChatGPT.
is that in his blog? I didn't.
Yeah, yeah, very nice diagram of like the level of AI adoption. And then he asks, are you at the stage where you run at least 5 different headless cloud sessions? If you're not, then this is not for you. Yeah, that one. So figure one is um, 0 or near 0. So you don't use figure two is AI is doing proposals. You say yes, no, and you accept
Oh,
those
okay. We've
proposals
been
in your
talking about
code.
this.
Right. Figure three is you go YOLO mode with the agent completely managing your code, and you are still looking at the code. Figure four, I forgot what's the difference between 3 and 4, but clearly the code is less important. Figure five is you're fully in the terminal with one cloud session. Figure six is you are in the like multiple cloud sessions. And figure seven is like gas down is if you're at figure 7 or 8, you have like a significant amount of parallel cloud sessions running. He explains them in the blog below, like in the
Yeah,
section.
I haven't got through the blog, but yeah. So this makes me think we've been talking about this at length, and but like at this point we're only on stage two, and it feels like we're a little bit behind.
Each and
But
every one individual, right? I'm pretty much as figure 5. I'm usually running a single cloud session and I don't look at the code. This is why when you say it's going to create a problem with code maintainability, I believe that docs first, um, integration test or end-to-end playwright is your validation of the docs. So these are always a sync. If they're not, then you have a problem. And then your code you may want to run some security of DevSecOps agents to identify vulnerabilities and things like that, and some well-architecture reviews of your code. But personally, you will not you only look at it as a high-level architecture, and you put your observability around it. You look at your memory usage, and you basically identify bottlenecks, and you only refactor when needed, like no premature optimization. Anytime you look at the code, it's premature optimization. Like you should just, trust the process. I think so. And you trust that your docs and integration tests catch any regressions. So you can say, hey, I want to change this whole feature, and then or I add a new feature, and then you can just run the thing and it goes like, yep, all of the existing user stories still work. You're good to go. And we have a new one. And it's fully covered by integration tests.
wow, man, the future that we're heading in is really crazy. But like, take beads for example. Say Steve decided like I'm not looking at the code and I wanted to re-implement again. I'm assuming beads has some sort of test harness or something like that.
Yeah, that's where it's super important. I like what the whole thing I said, right? You need to have at least a quick feedback loop for your AI and when it makes a change to know that like, oops, I broke, all of this other stuff that suddenly broke. The integration tests are not working. But I'm happy to say that I don't see cloud going and saying, "Oop, this test isn't
But
doesn't."
that's
I'm happy to say that cloud doesn't go like, "Oh, this is a pre-existing issue. Let me disable the test," which is
well,
used to do like a month ago.
well. This
But it
is,
doesn't do that
in
anymore.
my experience, it will just change the test.
No, no, it doesn't. So that's where I do look at the diff on my
because
tests.
that's the trouble with tests. Like the tests can encode a lot of assumptions and things like that.
Yeah, so I just did the whole thing, which is like a doc platform with LLM prompts for Cloud Ask User Tool. So that's the thing I built is basically tracking content, going into a cloud session with user tool to make changes to and then check it back in. So you have the that's what I built. And I just realized that it assumes the server processes access to the files on local disk. And I'm like, hold on a minute, the doc platform doesn't run on the CLI, the client side. So it
Mm.
doesn't have access to the disk. So the whole design, I totally missed the fact that the client needs to send the content to the doc platform to make changes. And so all of my integration tests are passing because it is running within the same workspace. So when the server gets a request, it just reads the file from the workspace instead of it running in a separate one. So right now I'm doing a massive refactor saying like, okay, create a whole new set of integration tests where the server process runs in a different folder and to make sure there's no case where, so there's no way that the server can, modify a file locally thinking that the client changes have not been persisted. So yes, you need to look at those integration tests. You need to look at the documentation and you need to look at the integration test. And I also ask
And
Codex and
the tests
Gemini.
are part of the code, right? I'm just thinking aloud here. Yeah, there's no way of getting around
So
that.
so that's another comment I got is some systems are so complex, multi microservice and all that. And so this is very hard of a workflow to implement over these complex systems if you cannot spin up a whole integration testing environment. To me, the integration testing is the only place like even the end-to-end testing is the only place you can actually do validate that things work. And then existing systems are not built for this, right? Existing systems heavily rely on manual verification of QA, and are way too complex to build a whole integration testing
Yeah.
environment. But if you're building something
I'm just
new,
thinking aloud. Just to put the tests in the code is kind of dangerous. They kind of need to be separated just for safety, almost.
no, I don't think so. I prefer what I like right now. I've done 4 or 5 projects where I use spec kit driven development and beats, and I go for a full monorepo, everything like side by side, and it's perfect because cloud can go
Yeah,
and
yeah.
directly see, hey, my API is here, my protocol definitions are here, my integration testing are there, and I need to go full stack. Like I need to go and change my
So
protobuf.
okay, so say we have some end-to-end tests. I mean, normally in the modern world, this would look like some, most pieces of software end up being a web page an iOS app or something.
Mhm.
And let's be honest, doing end-to-end tests on the web is still or on mobile, it's still a pain in the ass. It's going to be quite manual, isn't it?
No, I mean for the web app that I built, I use Playwright. I never used Playwright in my life, but Cloud Code wrote the scripts, and
Yeah,
I manually verify it, and I know it works. If it doesn't, I say, hey, the Playwright is not covering this, and it goes and fixes it. It says now the Playwright is
yeah.
failing.
But like it works in trivial cases, but in like big enterprise, if you ran Playwright over at an Atlassian estate, it would consume 1 billion tokens and explode. And
No, 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 not Playwright MCP. Okay, absolutely not Playwright MCP. Playwright, the actual test harness. This is what I hate about the Playwright MCP. Is like this, they seem to assume that you want the LLM to drive it and spend 1 billion tokens to go through the
okay,
process.
you need to show me
No,
your usage of Playwright. But I'm still. I mean,
Playwright,
if this is what we're going to rely on to make sure that we're delivering something that works, I'm a bit nervous about this.
and that's reality today that so many organizations don't have a proper first of database seeding mechanism or ability to even create a full integration environment for integration testing. And then they don't have fully automated end-to-end testing scripts. But if you write Playwright end-to-end testing scripts, it actually doesn't need an LLM to drive. Now go click on this button. Let me take a screenshot. Oh no, 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 wait for this button to appear. And then the LLM is doing that. That's insane. That's stupid. Playwright has a scripting engine. You can say, in this particular test case, we're gonna, we're gonna click on the login button. It's gonna redirect us to Keycloak for enterprise login. So we wait for
Mm.
the Keycloak logo to appear, the login to appear. We then log in with our Keycloak credentials for our integration testing environment, which is bootstrapped, by the way, during the setup phase. So I have a unique set of credentials to use during my end-to-end integration
Yeah, just
testing.
doing credentials flow is going to be a total pain.
Yeah, but that's why you need to build these systems with automation in mind. So that's real. It's true. I join many companies and they're like, oh, we don't know how to do our things and we want to have an integration testing environment. And I'm like, great, yeah, I can do that. And I'm like, okay, how do you bootstrap user accounts? How do you set up this and that? And nothing can be automated.
Well, maybe I'm
It's just as
talking
a
from
manual
my failed
process.
career, but like I have implemented a few integration tests in my life, but they just tend to be
Start
so
breaking.
expensive and hard to maintain, and you make one or two, and then you know how it works, but then you move on to another team or you
But the great thing about LLMs is that they, like, I never wrote a playwright script in my life, but the agent knows. And then it just works. And then it actually runs. And when you go into the playwright studio, whatever the thing is called that shows up, the UI, when you run it in UI mode, it actually, you can see every single step. Like you see the screen,
Okay, you
you
need to
go
show
to.
this to me. But anyway, I think we're
But the thing
over.
is that you get a full LLM context now. This playwright UI has a right click button, copy error, copy prompt, and you can prompt it. It says, we're in the playwright test suite. This
Wow.
is the step
Okay,
we're at.
this
This
sounds
is
good.
the error that the browser console is showing. This is what we saw in the previous step. And you
You
don't need an LLM to drive
okay?
the
In the next
process.
video, you need to show me playwright working as you've just described.
You don't believe me.
I don't believe you, but but I want to believe, to be honest. Okay, let's
And
wind
I know
up.
that your comment is going to be it's a trivial system that you're doing this on. I showed it to you before, I think. I showed you the grid,
You
you
didn't.
login flow,
Okay,
and you
so
said
so
trivial.
next is a focus on this. Let me see if I can highlight it. Okay, cool. I need to get on with my day. I'm sure you do too.
You don't believe me. I'm telling you, I agree with you that today the systems that the way that they're written and the way that humans have to maintain these things, they tend to run out of sync. But I have a very strong feeling that with the LLM and the capabilities of the LLM takes on ownership on a lot of these components, and the users are just there to validate. And it's pretty much what Gastown is saying as well. The human role is reduced to an overseer. We just validate the
But still, the
process.
the validating, like I thought we were just discussing that the validation can be automated and
No, the
enter
human
it as.
validates the validation.
All right. Um anyway, I wanted to talk to anyone who's listening to please rate the podcast, comment in the YouTube, email
They'll just
us.
say Vincent's an
How
asshole.
do people reach you, Vincent? Don't
Reach
say
me.
don't say LinkedIn.
I watch the comments sometimes. So if there's a comment, I will respond.
Wow,
I don't
man,
know
Vincent,
how to
you're a
reach me.
man of the people. I will sometimes look at what you have to say, but otherwise I don't care.
No, no, I do. I do. I go care. How do they reach me? You're like, oh, what?
Do you have any, like, you can email me at henry@icky.feet, for example, and tell me that I'm wrong or you have a better idea.
Okay, you can.
God, this is so hard with you, Vincent, honestly.
Can't really reach me, no.
Oh, okay, well,
You can email
contact me.
and Kai, and then Kai can tell me if somebody says that I was totally wrong. That playwright doesn't work the way I say it does.
Cool, man. Anyway, it's, oh, we didn't, yeah, okay, we couldn't cover everything. This is crazy. Loving it. Okay, see you guys. Bye.